What is that feeling of powerlessness that defines the existence of the addict? We know what we're doing is wrong. We know what we're doing is compromising our mind and our body and our health, and yet we feel powerless to stop. This feeling, this lack of agency, creates a real deep conflict within us. This conflict between our awareness and our body. Our awareness may have these thoughts and these intentions of stopping, but our body just does what it does, because I've come to realize that our body is very much, its actions are the accumulations of our deep habits and our deep grooves within our being. And our addictions are these deeply embedded habitual ways of soothing and regulating our nervous system. Let's say, for example, we have a bad day, a stressful day at work, and then we come home, we want to sit down, unwind, and we unwind with a drink or a joint or a line or whatever your given poison is, your vice rather. And in this situation, we experience some kind of stress, the bad day at work, and we want to find a way to remedy that stress. And within the world of all the different remedies, there are good remedies and there are bad remedies. There are medicines that will create a long-lasting and a healthy improvement to your mind and your body. Let's say exercise or mindfulness, meditation, yoga, going for a walk in nature, for example. And those ones, they may not have the immediate hit of dopamine and relief, but they work. They work much better for you. But they're not as sexy, obviously, as a drink or a joint. Those other coping mechanisms, they can work much quicker, but ultimately, when we have certain substances as the things that we're reliant upon, we are sort of conditioning our mind. We are conditioning the internal aspect of our being to be attached to external things in order to regulate itself. And that ultimately makes you a prisoner to these substances. And anyone who has been addicted knows what this feels like. Being a prisoner to a substance means that your ability to experience peace and contentment in normal, everyday waking life is almost totally incapacitated. Your consciousness is always disturbed and distorted with cravings, with longings, and in certain moments these cravings get more intense. These cravings get more intense when we're in a more stressed situation, when we feel more negative, when we're yearning for more of that positive experience. There'll be moments and times where your cravings aren't as strong, but when we feel shitty inside, we want to try and heal that shitty feeling, obviously. And this is why addictions, they're almost never the cause of our problems. They are really the quick and easy fix that we're trying to clutch at to help ourselves. They are the solution to our problems. But they are a solution that never fully fixes our problem, and in fact, in the long term, leads to more and more deeper problems. And when those deeper problems start to arise, then you are forced to make a decision ultimately. Do I continue down the rabbit hole of addiction, which is going to keep me in this constant state of craving and emptiness and disappointment, this longing search for a kind of euphoria and bliss that is always short lasting and never complete? Or do I make a different choice? Do I make a choice to sit with my pain, to confront discomfort, and to choose other healthier ways of coping with my stress, other ways which are difficult. It's very easy to snort a line. It's very difficult to sit down for 5 minutes with oneself, with all the repressed thoughts and feelings that torture you in the background of your mind. It's very easy to just numb all that out with alcohol or whatever, to avoid acknowledging its presence, to live unconsciously. Living unconsciously is often described as easy. There's that saying, ignorance is bliss. But ignorance is not a true form of bliss. It's a form of bliss that is built in illusion. Consciousness is the only pathway towards ultimate bliss. But it's a pathway that is defined by its many obstacles and many initiations. And, I've spoken about these sort of things many, many times, about how to sort of understand our suffering and our traumas and our pains as these form of initiations, these things that challenge us, but through that challenging, they take us into a heightened awareness of ourselves and a heightened mastery of ourselves. Life would be very boring if it was never filled with things to overcome. This is why we, understand the the mythological story of the hero's journey as something that is so enticing and something that really speaks to something deep within the human soul. This journey of leaving our sense of safety and familiarity, encountering some kind of, heroic initiation, this battle with some kind of monster. In addiction, the monster is within, and overcoming that monster and ultimately becoming a more actualized and realized person as a result of that. Addictions, they force us into a deep wisdom of ourselves and a deep wisdom of the many forces within us that sabotage us. And they force us to learn how to master and control our mind, which is ultimately the most important skill to have in this world today. Self-mastery, mastery of our mind and our attention, and being able to move the various energetic currents within our body and mind. Because in addiction, right, our energy is being used up. It is constantly being funneled outwards towards the pursuit, the longing, the craving for the addiction. And this constant leakage of energy exiting our body means that we don't have enough energy for our own realization, our own higher pursuits, our creative pursuits, our work, our energy for our loved ones and stuff. Our energy is ultimately dictated by what our attention rests upon. Where our attention goes, energy flows. And in addiction, our attention is sharply fixated upon the addiction object. And this represents a distortion of the mind. It represents a sense of possession of the mind. But once we are able to witness that possession, when we begin to witness the craving without reacting to it, that's when we are doing the work. That's when we're doing the inner work. And we're cultivating this habit of higher awareness, this habit which will ultimately accumulate and develop into a deep groove. And then when you have so much awareness, you naturally reach a point where you find yourself, rather than reactively or impulsively indulging in your sense pleasures, you can see that they're testing you. And you can respond to that test with awareness. And you can say, I know where this path leads, and I can choose to do differently. We are defined by the choices we make, ultimately. And what I really want to leave you with is this important question: what choice will you make next? Yeah, I'll leave out that. That's been useful and insightful. I'll see you next time, and goodbye, everyone.